In this episode of Home Theater Geeks, I finish my conversation with Mike Heiss, who attended the 2024 CEDIA Expo in Denver, Colorado. In this episode, we talk about audio products. So stick around.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here, the Home Theater Geek. In this episode, I conclude my discussion with Mike Heiss, journalist, consultant, and jolly good CEDIA Fellow, who attended the 2024 CEDIA Expo at the Denver Convention Center in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Mike, welcome back.
Hey, well, imagine I feel like I've been here before.
And so you have.
Yeah, I know. I got to stop wearing the same shirt all the time.
Yeah, me too.
They gave it to me.
Yes, and rightly so, as they should.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, this is a three-part episode. 3 episodes to cover CEDIA. It was so big, and there was so much stuff. And in this third part, we're going to talk about audio. I wanted to just make sure everybody understands where the show was. This great convention center in Denver, which you can see here, and it puts some miles on your shoes, doesn't it, Mike? 20-something miles, because I did use the pedometer. And the weirdest audio thing is that escalator that you see, which is where you go from the street level up to where the exhibit floor is. Yep.
It's called the laughing escalator.
What?
Because it was probably done by the same guys who did the laundry jet. As you're going up the escalator, you hear,
Really?
I'm like, what the hell is that?
I don't remember that.
You have to get a tune. I asked somebody about it, and they said, oh, yeah, it's like a thing.
It's like a thing. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk about audio in this episode, and audio products in particular, and we're going to start with audio video receivers, AVRs. And
What's that?
What's that? You only worked in that business for 25 years, and still are doing some work in that business, I'd say.
That is indeed correct.
Yes. So as we talked about the JBL AV receivers in part 1, but we're going to get a little more into it here. They had a new series called the MA series,
which stands for Modern Audio. And as you said, and there you go. That's the MA 510. And I did a lot of AVRs in my day.
Yep.
And none of them looked like that. But at that time, none of them would have looked like that. But I've been talking to, notice that it's $599. Now, I've been sort of not preaching, but, speculating that the AVR is kind of gone below $1,000. So what the heck is a $599 AVR? And the answer is for people who want something that's a step up from a soundbar. And do you have the white one, Scott?
I don't have a picture of the white one. There's also a white one of this same look.
Okay. And this looks nothing like a standard AVR, even the ones that they're making now. But what this is saying is there still is a market for an independent source, an AVR, a receiver, as Dr. Harman, when he put together the first receiver in the 50s, it's what was then a preamp, a tuner, and a receiver in one box. A preamp, a tuner, and an amp.
And an amplifier, box. Yeah.
And that's what this is in a modern day look, but it's clean, it's short, it's all the things that I couldn't have done or wouldn't have been allowed to do. Class D amp, lots of HDMI, a big 2-line display, a button with 10 remotes. And I used to look for more buttons. And then you go back and you say, but in a world where sources are increasingly menu-driven, do you really need that many buttons? And clearly the folks at JBL don't think that you do.
So you've only got 5 buttons on this remote, on this front panel here.
Well, but you've also got the button where it says input on one side. If you could put, above where the power switch is, that's how you can change things when you hit menu and then you turn that knob and blammo, there you are. Funny thing, there isn't even a mute button. If somebody gave me an AVR without a mute button, I'd fire them. Now, I'm guessing that you press the button in, the volume control, to do that. But clearly, to their credit, a lot of thought went into this.
Right.
And it'll be very interesting to see how much resonance this gets in the market, and particularly with JBL branding, because the Harman Kardon brand, and again, I haven't been there for a decade, has gone into different product categories. But I thought that this was very interesting on the one hand for the rebirth of AVRs under $1,000.
Right.
Not to be confused with over $1,000.
Right. Another thing I thought was very interesting about this model was the remote, which I do have a picture of in the white.
Yep, there you go.
This looks more like a remote from an Apple TV or a Roku or something, not an AV receiver.
In fact, it could be that remote, the same tool, quite frankly. But yeah, that's right. But, if you take a step back and you say, who's buying these things? Who does the brand, in this case JBL, want to buy it? They don't want people who need a gazillion buttons. And technology has changed where it wasn't back when I was doing AVRs, where you had to go into individual menus, but where you couldn't do that, you wanted a discrete button for delay and surround mode or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't need that because you can do that in a menu, or maybe this is intended for a market where that's not even needed. So I really kind of salute them for doing that, and I'll be really curious to see where that goes. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Sony had a number of new AVRs as well, of a more conventional design, as we'll see in this next picture. Here we see all of them festooned with buttons.
The 60th anniversary of ES.
Wow.
Started with that amplifier that's on the poster down towards the end. That is the original ES product. And these are big AVRs. Yes, these are traditional AVRs. And the AVR, and many of the traditional legacy manufacturers, Denon, Marantz, Yamaha, Onkyo and Pioneer and Integra and Elite, those guys are still having AVRs and new AVRs, but you also now have folks like Anthem and Arcam, which, by the way, the AVRs that I probably would have been doing if I were there now are now Arcams, which is also very smart because now they're $1,100, $2,200, $3,500, $4,500, $6,000 for an AVR from some of these brands because but they've got a lot more channels and they've got a lot more amplifiers that you have to have and a lot more technology for HDMI. And you want, at that price, you want those better DACs and you want that better HDMI. And you probably still have a button with a boatload of buttons. But,
a remote with a boatload of buttons, yeah.
Yeah, that too. And some of the other brands, some of the more custom-y brands like Anthem and Arcam, instead of having the traditional two-line display, which you can see that these Sonys have, they have 5-inch color TFT displays. So, and the fact that some of the installers are either using the larger of these 1999 and up AVRs to drive decent sized and quality home theaters shows that the AVR maybe isn't selling as much as it used to be. And we'll see how the JBL thing does, how many it's going to be selling in the $400 AVR from Sony or, from me that we used to sell at Circuit City. That's gone.
Yeah.
But that's, video killed the radio star. soundbar killed the AVR under $1,000.
Yeah.
But these bigger AVRs, the sales aren't as big, but it's suddenly become a vibrant category with a lot of new products from across the brand spectrum.
Speaking of Onkyo, they had a new one, the TX-RZ30, which is Graphic 5. And here it is paired. It was driving the Klipsch RP 5000F.
What a coincidence.
Yes, by coincidence.
Owned by the same company.
Right. So that's just another AVR.
Well, look at the number of buttons on that remote.
It's a ton.
Right? But that's what the people who are buying that want.
Yeah.
And the people who are buying that want the rack. And you can put the rack on that.
And by the way, this does have Dirac.
Exactly, but are the people who are buying the MA, modern audio, do they want the rack? Do they know what the rack is? And even if they know what it is, do they feel it's of any value to them?
Right.
And it has nothing to do with the rack or any other room correction thing being good or bad. It's like not appropriate, not necessary. You know what? It sounds good to me, and I'm not going to spend any more money.
Right.
So the market is rationalizing itself, but that's a classic Onkyo AVR. I can tell at this distance from the display. That is a classic AVR, and let's just say that I'll bet that panel in the middle, if you press it, it drops down, and there are probably 15 more buttons behind that panel.
Right. I believe you're correct.
But
this AVR, by the way, is $1,200.
And not a bad. And as are the companions from Pioneer, which is Onkyo Near, that owned by the Premium Audio Group, same company, and Denon and Marantz, owned by the same company, and Yamaha, not owned by any of those companies.
Right.
They're good values for what they are. Mm-hmm. It's just something that you have to want that type of product.
Right.
And if you want it, there are new ones that you can get.
There's tons of them.
Yep.
Okay, one thing I wanted to mention at the higher end is JBL Synthesis.
Yep.
Which we talked about the JBL Synthesis demo. Here they're showing some new separate components. The SDP58 16-channel processor, $6,900.
Not for that type of product. For synthesis, that's not an outrageous price, especially if you want to ask how much a Storm or a Trinov is. I could buy 6 of these for the price of a Trinov or a Storm.
Yes. Those are Trinov and Storm Audio are all in the 5 figures, certainly.
But this is really good, and you can see Dirac, IMAX, all the DTS and Dolby variants. This is a damn good processor.
And the sitting on top of the SDA 2200 2-channel power amp.
Which I wouldn't particularly be doing in real life.
No. That's $3,850 for 2 channels. But it does have Dante compatibility.
Dante is a thing. I have my reservations as to where it really belongs in this market. But if there must be people who think it belongs, because there was a lot of it around the floor.
Right. And just to make sure that everybody understands what it is, it's one name. It's the professional version of something more generically called AES-67, or even more generically, audio over IP. So
Correct.
It's basically sending audio digitally over Ethernet, essentially. And really the conversion to analog only happens at the very end within the amplifier. So the audio stays in the digital domain all the way along.
And you can run it around the house with Cat6 cabling.
Correct. You don't run into any length considerations at all. I will tell you that
there were some small receivers. There were some small 3.1 receivers from some of the brands at CEDIA with Dante. And, that's how you move it around.
Yeah, okay. I am going to have that in my home theater as soon as I get my Storm audio processor, which will probably be the one that they were demoing at CEDIA. That's another story that I will cover in another episode.
Are you going to tell us what the speakers are? Or are you going to keep that a secret?
Oh, no, I'll tell you. They are from Grimani Systems, our friend Anthony Grimani. It's a 7.2.2 system. They're the Rixos speakers.
I once had Rixos, but they gave me some pills.
They gave you some pills for it.
Went away.
They sound fabulous. Oh, man.
But we digress.
Let's get back to CEDIA, shall we?
Yes.
JBL introduced their Stage 2 line of speakers and subs. And here we see a photo from AVS Forum of the...
And you see, wait. If you see on top of the floor standers, you see the Atmos elevation speakers.
Yep.
And if you look all the way over on the right, there's the white version of that new
AVR.
And that is something that would never have occurred to any of us back in the day.
Is to make a white AVR.
With a lucite front.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's exactly what it's for. It's meant to look like that and be in a package like that. So you're looking that whole thing, I don't know, $3,000 maybe altogether.
I believe that's true. Yeah, I believe that's true.
For all those speakers, and there's a sub down there.
Yep.
And that'll put out really good sound.
Yep, absolutely. Now, there are a couple of subwoofers that I wanted to mention. One is from SVS. They made a new 17-inch subwoofer. This is a pretty big sub. It comes in ported and sealed versions.
But that wasn't the biggest sub at the show.
Oh, no. We're going to get to that in just a minute.
That looks like that's going to power a 737 MAX.
So this one, the amplifier puts out 2,800 watts RMS or 6,000 watts peak.
Yep.
It'll be shipping later this month. The pricing, they said, was not finalized, but should be in the $2,000 to $3,000 range.
And that was not available to be listened to at the show.
Right. Now, the one you're talking about
is Scott Wilkinson laugh.
Yes, the Pro Audio Technology, which is run by Paul Hales, a good friend of mine and a really good engineer. The ULFC 221IS infrasonic subwoofer goes down to 10.6 hertz.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Fasten your seatbelts, because humans can only hear down to 20 hertz. Yeah. So this goes an octave lower.
But you can feel it.
You can feel it, absolutely. I'm sure you can. Did you hear this one?
No, they did not turn that on.
They didn't turn that guy on.
But as in a parallel example, the Trinov demo that we talked about a couple of episodes ago with massive subwoofers, I was speaking to somebody in the booth next to it, and all of a sudden the thing is rumbling, right? Southern California guy these days, and they're like, earthquake! A brand, by the way. And somebody said, no, turn around, Mike. And we were behind where the Trinov demo was. And it was shaking the floor. And I don't even want to know what that thing does.
Yeah. Well, this Pro Audio Technology goes down to 10 hertz, and that's only minus 3 dB from nominal. So it's putting out 10 hertz. That's going to flap your pants leg.
And how many gazillion? I think I sent you a shot of the... what do you call it, the product tag, and it's got a gazillion watts of
8,000 watts.
Yeah.
8,000 watts of power on that amplifier. Really amazing.
Oh, honey, the circuit breaker just popped.
Yeah, right. There were. You mentioned that there weren't very many soundbars, but there were a couple. And there was one from Klipsch called the Flexus 300. And this thing is interesting. It's a 7.1.4 soundbar. It comes with the 2 subwoofers you see and 2 up-firing surround speakers.
And give a Flexus for Festivus.
Exactly.
And no, but that combination of ingredients, the feature set of that 7.1.4 system supports Dirac.
Yes,
goes
it
down
does.
to 43, and the sub goes down to 23 for $1,800. That's pretty impressive, and there is a market for that.
Yes, Yes, that is a full-on sound system for $1,800 that doesn't require an AV receiver.
So, that's another piece of evidence as to where the market is going.
Yep, exactly. The other soundbar that I wanted to mention, which I don't have a picture of because I tried to find one.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. You should have called me.
I should have. I didn't even know about it till after the show was over. And I was doing some research and I saw it. And I went to the website and it said you must enter your email to get more information. There was no picture of it.
Right.
On the website. It was all very secretive. And I, in fact, did that, and I haven't gotten anything back yet from them. It's from a company called Dyn Audio.
Oh, they're a well-established brand.
It's a well-established brand, absolutely. They've been around forever. It's called the Symphony Opus 1. It's 6 feet wide, the soundbar. With
that goes with the 115-inch, TCL.
Precisely.
But I'm only half joking. I mean, it doesn't, it's not sold that way. But if you look at what people are doing with these things, some of these things out of context say like, that's really damn goofy. But then you go, maybe it's not.
Well, it depends on how much. I certainly couldn't find out what the cost was. I'm sure it's very expensive. Dyn Audio is a high-end brand. Sign up to learn more. That's all they'll say. And you have these really close-up pictures of what look like shutters, wooden shutters that I guess open and close. I don't really know. I'm sorry I didn't know about this ahead of time, or I would have. Yeah, there it is. You'd see them opening and closing.
Oh, yeah. I
wish I had known about it before the show. And
oh, yeah, because I definitely would have gone to see that.
Tipped you to go see that. So it's going to be very expensive, but it should be really interesting. So.
Yep.
Any other audio things that you saw?
Not so much. Oh, yes. Hidden speakers.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of you put a driver on a plate of glass kind of thing, or it's a driver that's in something and you plaster over it. And that's not anything new. That's been around for ages, but there were a bunch of those, but not so much audio. Can I throw in a couple of other odd loose ends?
Sure.
Okay. One is the frame or canvas, the TV, flat panel TV as artwork.
Yes.
And that was something that Samsung started, I think, last CES. But now Skyworth, which is a very big brand in China, is capitalizing on that for the U.S. market. And that's actually their entry point, along with outdoor stuff, into the U.S. market. And TCL has one. And Samsung also has the music frame, which is what looks like pictures, but they're also speakers, and then the flat panel. So that's a trend. Higher frame rate for video. AWOL was very big on that. Leave us not forget our gaming friends, and VRR and 240 hertz and things like that were
those
very
are all
big.
Gaming features.
Right, but again, remember what the CEDIA people are putting in different kinds of rooms for different kinds of people, and that was something that popped up in a bunch of booths. What other sort of? Well, I can't get over the laundry jet, but we did that already.
We saw that at the end of episode 1. So if you didn't see that, go back and look at episode 1, and episode 449, first part of the CEDIA coverage.
There's a lot of audio cue, which is doing audio over power, like PLC.
You don't get me started.
I'm not trying to change your mind, but I spoke to the people behind it, not the brand, but the technology, the chip guys, and it's not meant to be Scott Wilkinson audio. It's meant to be whole house audio.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
Just so that everybody knows, we're talking about sending audio over the AC power line.
As IP.
As IP, so it's digital.
Right. Oh, yes. No,
Okay.
It's not like a bus. No. This is audio over IP over power.
Well, that makes a little more sense because digital, I mean, sending analog over the audio, over the AC power is like driving a Ferrari over a dirt road.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But if I told you it was audio over IP and I didn't tell you what pipe it was going through, you'd say, okay, fine.
Well, that's what Dante is.
Well, and that's what this is in a different sort of vein.
In a different carrier, so to speak.
Right. So, so that was something. Shade. Now, again, I'm a little extending the home theater geek concept, but shades and lighting for the installers is a huge category.
Yep.
And there are all sorts of things. Hunter Douglas had solar-powered, remote-controlled, automated blinds.
This is an important thing for home theaters to be able to control the ambient light.
And so there was a lot of attention to lighting and shades. It's an interesting show, and there were a lot of things that, as you just said, fit into the category of home theater that you might not think really do, but then you go, but I don't want, before we did the show, I pulled the blinds down.
Yeah.
It would be great if I could just push a damn button.
Uh-huh.
But remember, HDR sucks. So that's the headline of the show. For those.
That's the headline of the show. Barry Sonnenfeld says HDR sucks.
If you didn't watch the first one of these episodes of 449, folks, go back and listen to that one.
Yeah. What Barry Sonnenfeld talked about is very interesting. Very interesting.
It was a very, very good show, and everybody really learned a lot. I did a lot of courses. The RP22. Oh, can I give a plug? We're in audio. Let's give a plug for RP22.
Right, which is it's called Recommended Practices number 22 from CEDIA, right?
Yes.
They published it.
But it is now an official ANSI standard.
And it basically talks about how to configure and set up immersive sound systems, that is, speakers around you and speakers overhead.
And it's based on, I know the guys who wrote it. It took them 6 years to do it. It's based on a lot of the research that was originally done by Dr. Toole and by Todd Welty and Dr. Olive and Peter A. Lett and a lot of other guys. But if you are designing your own home theater, and it doesn't have to be a big, big dollar home theater, but as my friend Peter A. Lett said, in the Trinov booth, we don't need no stinking room correction because we did it right. And he didn't quite talk, he's English, he doesn't really talk like that. But we don't need no stinking room correction because there's nothing to correct because we did it right the first time.
Right.
Right?
And that's what this RP22 tells you how to do.
Helps you to do.
Yes.
And what is it? Norm Abrams, he used to be the carpenter on This Old House. He wrote a book called Measure Twice, Cut Once.
Yes.
And that's what this is for immersive audio. And if anybody, you can go to the CEDIA website and just put RP22, and it's free. And there you go. It is, it's pretty intense, but it's really, really good.
As you say, if you need some non-habit forming sleep aid, you can use it for that.
Put this under the pillow, honey. It'll just put you right to sleep. And by the way, go scroll back up. Whoever is scrolling up there, see some of the brands that were using it at CEDIA.
Yes.
To do their theaters. And Oficina Acustica. Hey, how's your Acustica?
Sí.
Well, it's a bit of the scene, see? And Perlisten, which were the speakers in the Trinov demo, and Storm, who was clearly not in the Trinov demo,
right.
And Triad, which is owned by Snap One. So the fact that it is endorsed by all of those folk tells you that this is real stuff. This wasn't a bunch of guys sitting at a Starbucks, with a laptop making up a standard.
No, that's This I'm definitely. You sent me the link to it. I'm going to download it and read it until my eyes droop. But
don't print it out and you have Joanna hit you over the head with it.
No, I won't.
But so that's kind of CEDIA in not a nutshell.
In 3 parts. Yes, Mike Heiss, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate your letting me do this.
Where can people read your work?
Okay, so Hidden Wires, which is European, but they've got some really good articles, and you want to see some really insane theaters. The name of the publication is Hidden Wires, and it's hiddenwires.co.uk, and more oriented towards the U.S. I'm one of the founding contributing editors of Residential Tech Today, www.restechtoday.com. And again, you can read my stuff there and read a lot of good stuff by a lot of other really good people.
Sounds great. And in addition, you're a consultant to a number of companies. You help them design products and so on.
Which will be known more as the year progresses.
Well, I can't wait. Maybe we'll get you back on to talk about it when you can.
Well, a lot of the stuff that I didn't see at CEDIA that we talked about is because I was talking to chip guys and manufacturers and other consultants who consult the consultants. And there's some cool stuff coming down the pipe.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to all of that. And in the meantime, I thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
It's been really great talking with you.
Are we going to have Tuba Christmas this year?
We are going to have Tuba Christmas this year, December 1st. At the Forest Lawn, Glendale.
Oh, so you're going to go back into the House of Liberty or something?
The Hall of Liberty is not yet done with its renovation. So just a little plug here. Everybody go to tubachristmasla.com to get all the details for this wonderful Christmas concert.
It's really good.
Christmas and Hanukkah music played on 100 tubas. So anyway, that has nothing to do with Home Theater Geeks, but
you deserve a plug, too.
What the heck? Anyway, thanks again, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
So that's it for our CEDIA coverage. A lot of stuff to cover. Now, if you have a question for me, please send it along to htg@twit.tv, and I will answer as many as I can right here on the show. And as always, we thank you for your support of the TWiT network with your membership in Club TWiT, which gives you access to all the TWiT shows in their video form, so you can see all the graphics. And that is a big benefit, in my opinion. So hope you'll consider it. Until next time, geek out.